Hi everyone, how are you doing? Welcome to the first ever Latina Studies alumni panel discussion that we decided to do for y'all because I think it's a really, really cool opportunity to get a bunch of really interesting stories of former students and their very different, diverse, but really awesome paths in their careers past being here at the U of I and the, I believe, premier program in the world, which is really, really awesome, and you guys are all obviously very interested in it. So, running a little late, but that's okay, so I just want to get right into it. So, let's just go kind of in order, however order you want to go, start here, start there, wherever. Just kind of introduce yourselves, tell us when you graduated, and what your job title, what you're doing right now, or very soon in the future. So, that's good, we can just get started. Whoever wants to go.
You go ahead. My name is Cindy San Miguel. I technically graduated in August 2014. Currently, I am a graduate student at the University of Illinois at Chicago in the School of Public Health. I'm in Community Health Science and Maternal Child Health, and I also work for a local union, SCIU, as a trainer for those that work with people that have disabilities.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joe Palencia. I completed my bachelor's degree here in Communication and Latino Studies and a minor in business back in 2011. I was here for 5 years. Soon after U of I obtained my Master of Education in Higher Ed at Loyola University of Chicago, and I currently work as an academic advisor at Oakton Community College for the TRIO Student Support Services Program. That's what I currently do.
Hi everyone, my name is Sonia Alejandra Rodriguez. I graduated in 2009 with a major in English and a minor in Latino Studies. I'm currently finishing my dissertation and will graduate with a doctorate in May or June. Yeah, one of those. Right now, I think I'm going to start looking for work outside of academia to do to work with youth and literacy programs.
My name is Natalie Lira. I graduated in 2008 with a major in Latin American and Caribbean Studies and a minor in Latina Studies. After I graduated, I went straight to a PhD program in American Culture at University of Michigan. And I just finished my dissertation, and next year I'm going to be the postdoctoral research associate in Latino Studies.
Hi, I'm Andrea Barron. I graduated last year, History Latino Studies, and I'm currently a program coordinator at the James R. Jordan Foundation.
And I'm Liz Gonzalez. I graduated in 2011 with a major in communication, a minor in Latino Studies, and I'm currently the business development manager for athletical physical therapy in Chicago.
Awesome. So first, on behalf of all the program, thank you all so much for coming. We really enjoyed your company, and we're really excited how we were able to pull this off kind of the last minute. So, but it worked out, so it's okay. So let's just get started right away with, I'll just take a couple minutes to talk about, what initially interested you in Latina Studies and kind of how you guys got involved in the program.
So I, like many other students, started off as a pre-med student in molecular and cellular biology, and I remember taking coursework in Latina Studies, and it just felt like super unrelated. Like I was doing biology and I was doing Latina Studies, and I felt that I was doing biology because that's what I was supposed to do, but I was doing Latina Studies because it was what I was actually passionate about. And I didn't really understand how to marry the two subjects. So I ended up like switching a ton of times, like a ton of students do. And eventually, after I went on my hiatus or my break, I did a lot of work around like community health. So I was a doula, which is a woman that helps another woman during birth. And I did like home visitation programs and case management. And when I came back, I worked really closely with Dr. Violor Fuentes, and she studied public health. And that's when I really kind of understood that you can do health and you can do social justice together. And so Latina Studies was a really nice curriculum, a great program and foundation for the work that I am doing now in public health.
So I was born and raised in Chicago from the Pilsen neighborhood. So when I was in high school, I was really interested in a lot of the history of Latinos in Chicago. So that became a huge interest of mine. So my freshman year, I took LLS 100, and I fell in love with the course. I fell in love with the field. It became my minor, but then the major was offered, so I just kept taking more and more courses. For me, I guess just listening to the other perspective of history, looking at a different perspective, and also provide some clarity. For me personally, I didn't understand a lot of things that were going on. And mind you, I grew up, when 9/11 happened, there was a huge anti-immigration movement, and I really wanted to understand what was going on and why that was occurring. So a lot of the courses provide that clarity for me, and that is why I got into Latino studies.
I think my first introduction was actually to La Casa. As a freshman, I'm first generation. I was born in Mexico, so I was undocumented for about half of my life. Then when I came here, I lived at ISR, so it was a predominantly white female dorm. And I think every brown woman got a little pamphlet that said, "This is La Casa." And so I went there. Yeah, we all got the pamphlet. So I went to La Casa and started getting familiar there. And I was very lucky that someone had told me about Latino studies, that this is a class that you can take and sort of feel at home and feel very welcomed. And my first Latino studies class was with Dr. Richard Rodriguez, who completely changed my life. The Latino studies program here completely has changed my life for the better, and has made me the academic that I am today, and has really impacted my scholarship. So it was my minor, but I think I should have gotten a major in Dr. Richard Rodriguez, because I took all of his classes. It should have been somewhere on my diploma. Major in Dr. Yeah, but I think in the Latino studies classes, I really learned that there was Latino literature. Because I was really passionate about reading and writing, and I didn't know that people of color were writing, or that Latinos were writing, or that they were writing about people like me. And so Dr. Rodriguez really pushed me in that direction, and he pushed me into grad school, and here I am.
Yeah, I think my story is kind of similar. I started with Latin American and Caribbean studies, and my focus was anthropology, so I was taking a lot of cultural anthropology classes, and it kind of I felt like a disconnect, being a Latina and studying Latin American cultures. And so moving into Latino studies, it just felt so refreshing, and it really gave me the tools and the language and the skills to understand what's going on in my community and what's going on in society. And I've always loved doing research and writing, and so it was really empowering to be in classes with people that had the same experiences, and with faculty that were supportive, and that similarly pushed me into academia. I didn't even know what a PhD was. I didn't know how to apply to grad school, and so it really was a transformative experience.
Well, for me, I came in undecided, and then I changed my majors a million times. But I ended up doing Latino studies because I ended up wanting to major in history. So I realized that I got to see the other side of the history, So I was able to connect all my classes together. And I was also very involved in campus. I was La Colectiva. I was at La Casa all the time. And my friends, they were also, majoring and taking classes. And I guess just the fact that in the history department, you don't really get that one-on-one communication with the professors. And here I feel like I know all of them. And it's so small, and I like it like that, because it's you get that one-on-one, and I got to meet great professors, and they got me angry about something. I feel like I've never been angry about something until I started taking the courses, and that just made me passionate. That just made me very passionate. It just made me keep wanting to learn more, and you don't realize little things that go on in the world, little comments, until you take a class and you're you know what you're saying is wrong. Let me tell you what the correct term is, So I guess that's how I transitioned into Latino studies. And even now, when I started applying to jobs, people are like, what do you do with that? What did you study? And I just love telling them what I did at Latino studies.
Yeah, and for me, I grew up part-time in Chicago and part-time in the suburbs, and I was always the brown girl over in the white class. And when I, came to U of I saw that, honestly, I saw Latino Studies, I was like, what is this about, you know? And it fulfilled a credit. So I was like, okay, let's take it, let's go for it. And, you know, Professor Molina was my first professor, and she, just from her vernacular and the terminology, I just wasn't used to hearing those things. So again, I felt very inspired, and then I met, you know, I took classes with Alicia and Professor Dowling, and I felt hungry to get more involved within not only my culture, but just a societal understanding of what it means to be, you know, a Latino in the U.S. So I loved it.
Okay, so some of you guys have already kind of touched on this next question, but I just want to ask, show the students about certain specific things, classes, lessons, faculty members, experiences that really were your kind of the standout things in your time here in the program. So what were the things that really stuck out to you during your years here in the program?
There's a lot. I was actually telling Sonia on my way over here is I sometimes in my graduate program I'm like, I need to find where the Alicia is. Like, where's the Laura in this school? And so I think that kind of just speaks to the support and the investment that this program has into seeing all of you succeed. It is remarkable. And you use that as a resource. That is, it is, and it's not universal. And you all should know that this is like a very special place, and what they do for students is amazing. And I think that it's really awesome to see that we all come from like really different fields, and so you know you can be in Latina studies with a focus on literature, or in a focus on health, or in a focus on history, and I think that was really great that the coursework reflects that. You know, I never got to take classes with Dr. Vito and Fuentes, and I wish I would have, but a lot of the other coursework was really like multidisciplinary, and I really appreciated that. And I think that just kind of speaks to like the caliber of classes that they offer here. So my first class was with Dr. Gacho. She was great, amazing. I think I still have somewhere in my home like a letter of recommendation that she wrote for me because it was really beautiful and wonderful.
You didn't even use it; you just framed it.
No, it's just there. Like it's like from 2004, so no, you don't use it. But yeah, I think it's a great program overall.
For me, a lot of the courses are very empowering. Just hearing the narratives of folks who come from similar backgrounds as my own. So for me, it was very empowering. If I could think of one class, well, there's many, but yeah, I mean, all the courses were awesome. I think just learning stuff about Chicago, I think that's what stood out. I think I took Dr. Rodriguez's class on writing Chicano. What is it called? Writing. Yeah, I think that's the that course. Like it stood out. Like this is awesome. Just reading pieces on what it is to be a Latino in Chicago. What are some of the challenges that folks have in the city? I think that was really cool. So for me, that was very empowering. Learning about those things. But in addition to that, just looking at Latino scholars. For me, it was like, oh wow, like there's Latino scholars that write about these things. To me, that became very empowering. Having one-on-ones with faculty was also very empowering. I think a lot of the faculty planted seeds, like, oh, you should think about going to grad school. Hey, you write pretty well, you should think about doing so and so. So I think planting those seeds was very empowering. I never thought I would graduate from college. I'm a first-generation graduate, so for me, that thought never crossed my mind. I almost didn't finish my bachelor's degree here, so connecting with the faculty was very empowering. It's what kept me here. I became retained because of that. I actually withdrew from a semester, and when I withdrew and came back, that's when I declared the Latino Studies major. So for me, that was very powerful. But again, just planting those seeds. When a few faculty told me, hey, have you ever thought about going to graduate school? For me, that was very powerful. Like, oh, I guess I am worthy. I do belong here, and just became empowered. So.
I think I just want to echo the sentiment of just how supportive the Latino Studies department is or was for me. I think not only as an individual level, but also just like as a community, like supporting the Latino community. When I did my undergrad, it was 2005, 2009. So like immigration and anti-immigration policies were big. So I think 2005, or 2006 was the Sensenbrenner bill. They were trying to sort of pass and it was the biggest march that this campus had ever seen, you know, against anti-immigration policies, and the department stood behind the students, like the students organizing. The department made it clear that they supported the protest, that they supported the boycott, that they supported, you know, us, and that really helped the student organizers, because it means a lot when the department stands behind you, right? Because the school is standing behind you as well. And so, as the people organizing these marches, and even as like the student protesters, it made me feel safer, and I know the people organizing made us feel safer knowing that we had the professors backing us up. Because sometimes, I mean, we were like 18, 19, like trying to protest a really like large system and trying to fight a university. So it helped to have like professor allies that could help us walk through some of these processes, or help find a language to how to combat like the university. So that was really, really empowering. And then, I mean, I also remember just like the battle against the chief, the Massacre chief. The department was always very supportive of any organizing that went around that, always very clear about where they stood on that issue. The tacos and tequila event with the fraternities and the sorority. So all of these things that were like very blatant racist issues that impacted, you know, like our souls as humans, the department made it loud and clear that they stood by us. This was not okay. And so I think not only like academically were they always there, but I think retrospectively, like what they were doing was helping us see, or helping me see, that I'm valued as a human, right? That I don't need to sort of take these quietly, these like racist arbitrations quietly, because I'm human and I can fight for that. And the department really made that clear for me.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I want to really emphasize that the academic aspect is amazing. Like I took classes with Ricky, with Professor Darling, with Alicia, with Jonathan, with Cacho, and I learned so much. But outside of the classroom, it was super empowering, because they were at our events, they publicized our events. They really gave us like the confidence to feel like we could make a change, and that we could decide where our lives were going to lead. And it happened in the classroom, but it also happened outside. And it's true, like what Simi said, it's not like that everywhere. And so it's a really special place.
Well, for me, I guess when I came here to U of I was completely lost. I'm the first one to go to college and graduate. And I came to U of I because it was the furthest yet the closest to home. So like I didn't really have like because I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I just came. I was like, oh, I'm just any, mini, money, mo, U of I, let's go. So I did that, and I came here, and you know, I guess I had this like image of life, like you either have your teacher, lawyer, doctor, you know, I didn't really know there was other things to do, right? So I don't want to say he's my favorite professor, but he has a very, very special place in my heart. Professor Burgos. He, you know, he's a history, and he like his concentration's baseball. Right. How cool is that? Like, something that he loves to do, he made it into a career. Yeah. Like when he told me this, I was like, what? Like, you're writing about baseball? Like, and then I think that's when it hit me. Like, I could take something that I love and make a career out of it. You know what I mean? And you know, Lisa Cacho, she was my first like LLS professor too. I took 100. That woman looks so cool. That woman looks, I'm like, okay, so I could be a professional and still look cool. Like, okay. You know, so like little things like this, like they were very like, you know, Professor Dowling too, like so like very human, like, you know, like you meet some professors and they're like old and like, you know, like so, and like I feel like I felt at home here, you know. So I think like, you know, the faculty and like what you learn is just like it's very like it's a safe place to like, you know, raise your hand and say what you want to say, you know, like you never feel like it's a stupid question, you know, and you never feel like I remember like I took a class with Professor Inda too, and like it was me, Carlos, like all these people, and we would walk in and we just start saying all these jokes, and like Professor Inda would be like trying not to laugh on the side, but I feel like he never judged us. But always, so it's like it's a family. Like to me, it's a family, and I really enjoyed it. And I just learned a lot, and like Professor Burgos, he was always pushing me. Professor Coyoca,
Oh, God.
he destroyed my papers. He destroyed them, like red all over, red, and I loved it. It made me feel like, okay, Coyoca, give me more, challenge me more. And it felt like he didn't make me feel bad about my writing. He just he will destroy my papers. I'm like, here you go, here's another one. Keep doing it, you know. And I feel like I'm a better writer, a better like person, just not even like academically, just a better human being. Like you just become so aware of like what's going on, and you know, I think that's what makes this department really special.
Yeah, I think general, and I don't know if you want to move on to the next one, so I'll make it quick, but just the general dialogue that you can have in an LLS class is amazing, and how supportive the professors are of you saying what you have experienced and what you believe and why you believe it. You know, you're rarely ever going to be told that you're wrong. People just want to understand why. So that was just a growth experience from LLS 100 through any class that I took in the department, just to be able to go through those and listen to peers and listen to professors was just an amazing experience.
Awesome, wonderful. So now I want to have you guys talk a little bit more about past graduation and what you guys, when you guys are deciding what you want to do once you're out of here, and how your experiences in LLS really influenced that and what you guys chose as your career.
So, like,
Alex, can you repeat the question again? So for me, taking the Latino Studies courses, I learned a lot about identity, so that became very salient for me. So learning things about sexuality, gender, religion, those type of things provided a framework and also like a foundation into going to higher education. So this social justice lens is what inspired me to go in higher education. So again, I just learning about identity, looking at different communities, not just my community, but other communities, especially those that are marginalized. I became more alert and more aware of the inequalities that exist in our society, and that's what got me into higher education. That I wanted to help communities that were marginalized.
So I'm currently like a few months away from getting a doctorate in English from the University of California, Riverside, which Dr. Rodriguez really had a big impact on me even going over there or maybe being in grad school in the first place. And I think I do want to just reiterate just how special this department is, having already spent like 6 years at another institution and working with what's a Chicano Studies program over there. Just how much like they care for you and how intense they are about your success is very, very evident. But I would not have been able to go through my PhD program if it hadn't been for my background in Latino studies. So I went in for a PhD in English, and I wanted to emphasize in Latino studies or Latino literature, but my department didn't have an expert in that field. So all of a sudden, I'm like 22 and the expert on Latino studies for myself, right? So I really did build on what this department, that foundation the department created for me. And it was with classes with Dr. Rodriguez and like Dr. Dowling that I had to go back to those like readers and I had to go back to those books and those listeners because all of a sudden I was the expert in Latino studies. So I do eventually want to be an English professor, but I do want to emphasize and teach Latino literature. Just reading in general impacted my childhood so much. And just literacy and like giving kids books is such like it changes their lives. They can save their lives if you just give a kid a book. And so I think that's what I'm trying to do. My focus is in Latino children's and young adult literature, and I have Dr. Ricky to thank for that because I did SROP here and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to do Chicana literature, and he gave me my first like chick lit book, and so like it expanded from there. So really my research in children's literature extends from this department, from what I learned here and from what I did here, even like my activism and working with youth on this campus. So everything that I've become as a scholar and what I hope to be like as a professor really started at U of I in this department and this house, but like with the people here, I forgot the rest of the question, but.
So, like I said before, I've always loved doing like research, and I didn't know what I was gonna do. I had Latin American and Caribbean studies and Latino studies, and my mom would always be like, "What are you gonna do with that?" And I never really knew. And then I did McNair. I was part of the McNair program my junior year. And that's when I really started to learn like what a professor is and how you become a professor and what it means to do research as your job, and the fact that you get to do research on what you want to do. And so that experience was really, really important. And then in terms of giving me the framework of like, okay, what do I want to do? What is going to be my career? And then Latino Studies kind of filled in the rest of the gaps, and the coursework I kind of was able to figure out like what my specific interests were. Ricky gave me a book, Fertile Matters by Elena Gutierrez, which is about Mexican origin women's reproduction, and that book just completely changed my life. And my interests are reproductive politics, and he suggested that I apply to interdisciplinary programs like Latino Studies. So I applied to American Studies and Ethnic Studies programs, and the faculty were so supportive in my application process. I mean, just getting feedback on my statements and letters of recommendation, just like guiding me through all of that. And so I think I have like the faculty to thank for getting me into the programs, and then just being there, like going straight from undergrad to grad school was really hard, because you're in a room with like 5 people and you're talking about a book and you're with a professor, and it's just very intense. And like having the skills to and the confidence to say what you think about something with a group of people that you just barely met was like, it was a really tough transition, but I don't think I could have been able to get through it without like the preparation that I got here. And just to echo like what you guys were saying about pulling out those readers, I remember like in my classes pulling out the readers that I got from my LLS classes and being like, I know that there's something in here, that I need to talk about in my class. And even like I took an upper level class with Dr. Cacho, and she had us write like a literature review, and I pulled out my literature review handout that she gave us, and I used it in like all of my classes in grad school. And so it was really, the training that I got here was really useful when I was in grad school. And even like while I was out there, I remember I was going through a really hard time. My first 2 years were really rough. And I remember like being on Facebook and messaging with Ricky, like, I don't know what to do. And he like, told me, talk to this faculty, she's really great. And he actually like encouraged me to work with the person that became the chair of my dissertation committee. And so it was support all the way through.
Well, for me, I think, I guess like for most of my college life, undergrad, I was lost. Like I was just like a walking lost person. I didn't know what my major was. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had no passion. I was just like, can I just graduate and like make money? Like, but like the Latino Studies program, just again, like so many different concentrations, Mireya Loza, she introduced me to oral history with the Braceros program, and I was like, this is so interesting, like oral history, how cool is that? Professor Dowling with the census. Like, who thought that the census was so controversial? Like, I didn't know that. Like, I was like, okay, so like, I feel like I found like my passion, and I found my identity. Like simple things like people calling me Andrea instead of Andrea. My name's Andrea, it's not Andrea. Like, pronounce it the way it's supposed to be. Little things like that. I feel like I found my identity, and I found my passion, which is education. I never realized how privileged we are right now to even be sitting in this room. You know, like people fought to get us here. You know, I did the oral history. I got to interview the people who started, you know, the Latino department. You know, the person that made the murals. I got to interview him and I got to talk to him and I got to hear their stories. And I was like, something so simple as being in a classroom that we take like for granted. Like, you know, I found that I didn't want to do that, and I felt like my passion was to make other people understand that it's a privilege to be here, you know, and even yet it's our right to be here at the same time. You know what I mean? We have to be here. We need more Latinos. And now I work with, like, you know, underrepresented students who have all these like ideas and passions, but they don't have the resources. You know, CPS is really bad, you know, and these kids are getting screwed over. And you know, it's not that they can, it's not that they don't want to, it's just that they don't know how to. And I feel like it's my responsibility to help them, because there was somebody here to help me and make me realize that, you know, it's your right to be here, and you should be here. Like, you should not let anything stop you. You know, you should not let money stop you. You know, paying for university, yeah, it sounds scary, but it's not impossible. You could do it. You know, so I feel like here, you know, just learning stuff like that, like little things like the census, things that you like hear and you're like, it's a census, like, what is it, like, but then you really look into it and you're like, wow, like, it's controversial and it affects me and affects my family and my community. So I think the Latino studies helped me find myself and my passion.
So my answer is twofold, professional and personal. First and foremost, on the professional level, I didn't go into academia. I decided to go into business, more specifically sales and marketing, so that's what I do. But within my organization, I'm trying to develop we have a leadership program, but it's just for, you know, how to become a better manager. So I just recently met with the director of the leadership program, and I said I wanted to develop something for people of color and women, just because we're so underrepresented in the business world. And just like how I was growing up in the classroom of not Hispanic people or not people of color, I'm again in that situation, in that circumstance at work. So hopefully I will be able to help that director understand the importance of it, that you can be a leader, but you know, people like us grow up not knowing that we can be leaders. So I'm trying to do that currently. And on a personal level, you know, you guys brought up identity and personal narratives, and that's something that I really appreciated going through the classes, especially because, you know, 2 years after I graduated, my dad got deported, and I just learned those 4 years of so crazy prepared me for these past 4 years, you know, since I graduated college. You know, I learned that things happen. I was privileged enough to go to school with a dreamer, you know, and just to see those experiences and be able to go through my own and know that it's okay, and it's just life as we know it, and what we can do to get past those things, not only with my family, but, you know, and having the ability to reach out to people like Alicia or Professor Molina or Professor Coyoca, just were awesome. Or even Professor Dowling. I know I commented on your Facebook status a couple of months ago, like, I'm still learning from her because she posts things and I read them, and I value just, I mean, I don't know if you know it, but I really do value everything you post. But, you know, even fellow students that I reached out to, Julissa, who now works down in Washington, D.C. with Congressman Gutierrez, you know, just the support and what you learn being through the classes has been awesome.
Cool, thank you guys. So I have one more question here, and hopefully we can get through some of this. We have a little more than 10 minutes left. Maybe get a question or two from the audience, but
we can go more than.
Yeah, if not, don't worry, we have food also waiting and whatnot. So last thing, I'm going to ask the obligatory, what advice would you give current students question. So what advice would you give current students? And obviously, you know, you guys have different experiences, but if there's any one thing or a number of things that you guys would like to, these guys to really learn, what would it be?
So I definitely thought about this answer on my way here and shared it with Sonia. And I think that my experience really told me about the importance of knowing, of letting people know, like when you're in a rut, when you're in that bad place. You know, we always want to share our victories, and every time something good would happen to me, I'd like come and run tell Ronnie and the previous director of La Casa or Laura, like, oh, I did good on this exam, or I did really well on this, or I had big success with this event that I put on. And I think I let my pride get the best of me and not sharing when I was not doing okay. And I think that it's really important for you all to know that, like, you know, failure is going to happen, and that's a normal part of being an adult. But you need to let people know how to ask for help. That is like the most important thing that I think I didn't know how to do. And so like this past semester has been really hard for me. I've been very busy. I chaired the Minority Health Conference, which is a conference up at UIC for like a ton of people, and Alicia presented and she was amazing. But I didn't know how to ask for help, and this semester I did that. Like there was a point I'm like, listen, I am swamped, I am stressed, I like cried like 3 times in the last 24 hours, like you were just like, I'm gonna need to take a day, and everyone's like, okay, like yeah, we can do that. Like, and if I would have been better at that when I was here, I think I wasn't good at letting people know when I was down. And I just like always was like, I can do this. I can put on 15 events in 1 week. I can put on the Latino Youth Conference. I can do all these things. I'm gonna put all these events, and I never, like, in the back, I was failing my classes, and nobody knew this. And, you know, even like today, my parents don't know that I just graduated, and they will never know. You're a safe space, y'all, okay?
You know you're being taped, right?
Video will be great. No, but like in all seriousness, like, do let people know when you are in that rut. There are people here that really care about you all. And if you let people know, they will help you. Don't let that pride get the best of you. So that would be my advice.
First and foremost, I think it's important for everyone to remember that you're a student. And with that said, I would advise you to challenge yourself, take those hard classes, take those difficult courses, and get the most out of those courses. You'll be thankful for it. Find a space to study. There's a lot of spaces here. Take those hard classes. Read, write, challenge yourself. Even start questioning why you think a certain way, right? That's part of the learning process. So that's my advice to you. Everyone is to take those challenging courses. Second thing is get involved. Super, super important. Join a club. If there's not a club or organization that you like, you can start your own organization. That's what made my college experience awesome, is getting involved. So get involved, take advantage of that. And then more importantly, take advantage of the resources. There's so many resources here, it's ridiculous. There's so many resources. You're paying for it, and if you're not using it, that's on you. So take advantage of all your resources. So that would be my advice.
I definitely want to echo what they've said. I think when you start going through the Latino Studies classes, you realize how important activism is. And a lot of that passion is because we want to make it better for the future generations, because we want to sort of create spaces for those that are coming. And that's important. I was super active. I was alongside Cindy, along these people. We were out there. And we were serious, super serious about the change that we wanted to do, because we felt it like to our heart. Like it was unfair, and we saw it. But like Joe was saying, is like your priority is to be a student. Like you need to graduate. You're going to make a bigger impact in your community if you graduate. Unfortunately, you're going to leave after 4 or 5 years. You're going to leave Champaign-Urbana. The economy, maybe you shouldn't. But the impact that you have will be larger if you graduate. I know getting involved is super important, and it's going to help you emotionally, but you need to graduate. Also, I think Alicia and Laura need to know you. If you just care about your own life, they need to know who you are. Okay, because they will care for you. They're here to support you. They will bend backwards to make sure that you're okay. But like Cindy said, they can't read minds, unfortunately. And so you need to be able to talk to them and tell them. I think also you need to attach yourself to a professor. Latch on. So, because they're going to make such a big impact, you're going to need letters of recommendation, you're going to need references, you're going to need life advice. So really find that professor in the Latino Studies department or multiple professors that make you feel safe or comfortable, and just really start taking them out of the classes, start like going to their office hours. Or don't become stalkers, but just kind of latch on as strongly as you can.
Yeah, that's good. I really love what you said, Cindy. I think it's really important to like listen to your body too. Like sometimes we get so caught up in our work and wanting to be amazing at everything that, you know, you get burnt out, and if you don't listen to yourself, that can really affect you and also your timeline in terms of like where you want to be. Something that I wish I would have done differently is definitely like keeping in touch and keeping in contact with everyone, because it's easy once you leave to just move on to the next thing. And like I know for me, I'm always like, oh, I want to do everything on my own, and like I want to, you know, carry all the weight on how I get to where I want to be. But you know, there's a reason why, you know, it feels like a community here, and that's because everybody like helps each other, and that's so important. It's so, we need each other to move forward. And like it's sad, but like we were like so close when we were here, and we haven't talked in like 7 years, and how amazing would it have been if we like kept in contact. And there's so much more you can do when you're part of a group and a community. And so I think definitely, like, I don't want to call it networking, but I guess that's like the skill, right?
That's what I'm going to talk about.
Networking. We'll talk about that. And also, like, I just want to say one more thing. Like, think about it really bothers me when people are like, oh, what are you going to do with that? Like, what are you going to do with Latino studies? Like, what is that? Like, the skills that you're learning in these classes are really important. And what you need to learn how to do in moving into the job market is just learning how to translate that to employers, like writing, critical thinking, analysis. Those are like really important skills that you can take anywhere. And so people seem to think that Latino studies or interdisciplinary fields are like specialized or like skills that you can't use anywhere, but these skills are important in any field. And so I think that it's important for you to keep that in mind and to start thinking about that when you're picking your classes and when you're deciding like what extracurricular activities you're going to do and what other things around campus you're going to take advantage of. Like, you can translate that to something in any field. So yeah.
Well, the one advice that I wish someone would have told me sometime in my 21 years of life is that it's okay not to have a plan. I feel like a lot of people come in here and they stress me out. They stress me out so much throughout my whole life because they have a plan. They know what they're gonna do. They know what year they're gonna get married, how many kids they're gonna have, when they're gonna buy their house, like when they're gonna retire, when they're gonna die. Like, like that it just stressed me so much, and I thought that I was just failing at life in general because I did not have a plan, and I still don't have a plan, and I'm okay with that because, you know, you are in college, and you know, I regret nothing of my 4 years here because I was that person who stopped and enjoyed the moment, even if it was like a terrible moment. If it was a terrible class, I was like, okay, I'm done. You're here for a reason. Let's enjoy it, take it, make the best out of it. You know, I feel like that was the one thing that would bring me to tears, because people would have their lives planned out since day one. You know, your roommate, oh, this is what I'm gonna do, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, well, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know what I'm gonna eat for lunch. Like I've lived my life like this, and it's working out for me. And I could honestly say that I'm happy where I am. I wouldn't change anything. So it's okay to, you know, be spontaneous. You know, I decided to go to Spain, like study abroad with like $200 on me. It worked out, you know. I came back, you know. I wasn't like deported back or anything, so you know. Yeah, so you know, like, just stop, enjoy, and don't think that you have to have it all planned out. Like, it's nice for those people who do plan stuff, but I feel like it just takes away so much because there's so much more out there than from that path that you think you have to take. You know, I feel like if I would have come here and be like, I'm gonna be a teacher, I wouldn't have been able to like take all these awesome weird classes, theater 101, animal science 101, you know, all these things now that I know all these random facts. Like I wouldn't have known them, I feel, if I had just a specific plan. And I hope that I continue to live my life like that, like just go with it. And God has been good to me, and I've done well. So don't think that you have to have a plan. That's my advice for you.
I guess I'll revert back to the networking, which I guess we can call it relationship building. I just
like that.
Yeah, and that's actually one of my main focuses at work. I cannot stress enough the importance of relationship building. The people you get to know, just you talk about skills. You know, it doesn't have to be so concrete as writing or analyzing, but just simply listening to others. If anything, I learned, and I'm still learning because my fiance knows I'm super stubborn, but like just listening to okay, you're on camera.
I thought this was a truthful thing.
Just listen to what others have to say and follow up on why they're saying those things. And I mean, I was telling Alicia just before we walked in that you know, I have a full-time job and then I took a part-time internship, but my 2 full-time jobs that I've had since college, I didn't go into the interview without the manager who was interviewing knowing me. Like the reason I got the interview was because I knew someone that knew them. They, you know, vouched for me, I guess, whatever phrasing you guys want to use. And, you know, that accredited my reason for being there. So just build those relationships and follow up with them and keep in touch. And it's hard because you get busy, and it's even harder after college. You know, you think you're busy in college and then you go into the real world and it's like, oh man. But just make it a point to keep following up with people if you value them, you know.
Thank you guys. So are there any questions you'd like to ask our panelists? And you don't all have to answer, but if you want to take a shot.
It's not a question, but I just like honestly wanted to say, like, I'm always the one to make things cheesy, but like like all of you honestly like spoke to my heart. And like this like past year I've just been burnt out so many times. Like I've been that person who doesn't sleep because I'm trying to be on top of the world and like do all these things I think I can do. But like honestly, everything you guys said, like I took it like so like what I said like really just spoke to my heart, and like I'm so glad you guys came down and like talked to us.
Take time to enjoy your college career. You don't have to be on top of everything. And sleep.
But that pressure though is real. That pressure to be on top of the world.
And enjoy that pressure too. Enjoy it. You're gonna go back and you're gonna think, oh, I had that on my, and I came through.
Yeah.
I think that it's extremely, I'm just very grateful to see minority graduates here, and it's like, wow, you know, like we really can do it. I was interested in knowing how all of y'all being alum from here, being a minority at this institution, when you felt, like, I felt like the LLS classes that you all took, it sparked some, like you said, maybe anger, or like, but you were able to not just be angry about it, you were able to put terminology to it and a context to it. So how did you take, I mean, did you ever, I mean, there's only a certain amount of time you spend in class. Whenever you were outside in the social scene, outside of classroom hours or lectures or whatever, did you, if you did you feel a bit stronger as an advocate on behalf of like the minority community to speak upon these subjects, especially if it's so limited on this campus because of the very, very low minority representation rate? So,
you know, it's funny that you say that. I had one of my roommates, she was white, she took not an LLS class, but the Afro classes, and she came back one day, and I was sitting watching TV, and she's like, you know, I'm just so upset. I'm like, okay, well, why are you upset? What's going on? And she started saying how they listened to something in class, and the teacher or the professor asked for, like, how could you relate to this? And she's like, I just couldn't relate. And I'm like, well, that's what I live with every day. You know, we as minorities, that is what a minority is. You know, you aren't able to relate to the general, you know, the dominance, that paradigm that pre-exists. And so just in friendly situations like that, there was the advocacy that you're talking about. But you have to be comfortable enough with yourself to express those things. And I'm a loudmouth in general, so I have no problem. But I had a lot of experiences like that for sure.
We were crazy, y'all. Like, we were, I mean, I know that in one way, a lot of what happened when we were here, it was, like, super stressful. Like, everything that was happening with the changing of the chief, like, we would go to protests and, like, people would, like, throw things at us at, like, the basketball games and the volleyball games. Like, yeah, I remember this girl with, like, a flute, like, shaking her flute really bad and, like, you know, and that's, like, stressful. Like, I remember walking down the streets and, like, people yelling, like, spit to us and being really rude. And I remember it was the tacos. Do you guys all know the tacos and tequila? Yeah. So, you know, that happened when we were here, and that was, like, crazy. Yeah. I told people about that experience to some of my graduate friends, and they're like, that's psychotic. And I'm like, that's the environment that I did my undergraduate. But in a way, it really pushed us to be, like, on it. Like, I feel that I was really proud of the people that I, you know, should have graduated with, but the people that were from my but the people from our generation, I think we were crazy, y'all. I mean, we were at the forefront of a lot of stuff. Like, it was awesome that the chief got removed while we were here, and it wasn't just us. It was built on years and years and years of people pushing that, but the fact that it happened while we were here was amazing. And I think it taught us, like, the power of voice, of organizing. So me, Sonia, and Natalie, we were all part of Mecha. We were, like, the founders of the chapter here, and we started, like, all sorts of crazy initiatives. So, like, we started Semana de la Mujer, we started the Latino Youth Conference, Sonia started a Saturday program for youth in the community. So, I mean, yeah, we practiced everything that we were taught in school. And the reason that we started Mecha was because Dr. Cacho made us read El Plan de Santa Barbara, and one of our friends at the time, Nayeli, was like, I think she's talking to us. I think she's trying to tell us. Like, yeah, you're right. She did this on purpose, and we're like, okay, let's do it. And so we started this club, and I think that they're still a functioning chapter, and it was literally, we put into practice what we were taught in the classes, and those are skills that, like, I definitely still have that on my resume of, like, you know, created budgets, created new programming, program development, program assessment, evaluation. Like, that is, like, they're like, oh my God, you put on this conference for how many? 200 youth? That's amazing, great. Like, those are things that people really look at, and they're impressed by it. So I wasn't doing it for those reasons, but it worked in my favor in the long run.
I think for me, so my research now, like I said, is on Latino children's literature, but it focuses on healing. And I'm really interested in how, like, Latino children's literature and maybe literature in general can function as a healing process for children, right? So how do books heal children, and how seeing yourself represented in a book can really change your trajectory in your life and empower you and give you voice. And I learned that here in the Latino Studies program. My LLS 100 class with Dr. Richard Rodriguez, we read The House on Mango Street, and oh my God, that, like, was my life. That I'm still obsessed with it, because I had never read about, like, a Mexican immigrant. I was like, that's me. I lived in Chicago. I was like, oh my God. I wanted to be a writer. I was like, oh, like, how does this, like, happen? I feel like someone's following and writing my story. But, like, I had never read a story or a book that connected so closely to me, and so being in these Latino studies classes was healing. It was cathartic, because I learned to find empowerment in my own stories, and to find empowerment in the people that looked like me and in my community, and in, like, my mom's stories and my grandma's stories. That just because they weren't in some history book didn't mean that they weren't important. And so I carried that with me throughout undergrad and into graduate school, and hopefully whatever it is that I do after this doctorate. that's what I want to sort of teach, like children and young adults, that your life matters, that who you are matters, despite what society's been telling you for thousands of years, right? That like you matter, you're human, you're important.
And I don't mean to do double duty on this question, but to that point, I learned not to, I almost felt like a minority within the minority classes a lot of times, because I remember, he's actually a good friend of mine now, but he straight up just said, like, you are essentially like a fake Latina, right? Yeah. And you get that, and that's a very real thing, because you have we have these ingrained stereotypical narratives of what a Latino or Mexican or Puerto Rican should be. And for example, my fiance is 25% Puerto Rican. Bet none of you guys, no, I'm just kidding. but I remember we went, I had that experience, and it was in Professor Coyoca's class, and it was afterwards, and he came up to me afterwards and said that, the student. And it helped me, and I helped him, and we helped each other kind of redefine what authenticity meant, and that it doesn't have to have that concrete meaning. Because you give yourself value, not others. So I just wanted to kind of piggyback.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I want to add to that. So I went straight to grad school right after undergrad, so I got my master's in education. And for me, I took that lens to grad school. So every paper that I wrote was about Latino issues. And I even took that as a practitioner. So a lot of my papers, I even got challenged by it. I had a really horrible experience in grad school. Long story, but I was challenged by one of my peers. He's like, why do you always talk about Latino issues? Why do you focus on Latino issues? I'm like, because the books don't focus on the stories of Latinos. So it pissed me off. But I focus a lot of the work on that. So a lot of my papers focus on Latino issues. And I took that passion, and I got involved in a national organization for student affairs, and I'm part of the Latino network, and I write about Latino students. I actually wrote a chapter on Latino student involvement, and I took that with me. I present on Latino issues as well, so I took that, and I think giving that voice that's not given in a lot of these spaces. So a lot of the spaces that I'm in, I always talk about Latino issues, so I take that with me.
And if there aren't any other questions, there's some food waiting for us. Thank you.